All right. Call the meeting of the October Finance Committee of Stephenson County Board. I'll go ahead and Lord God Almighty, thank you for the opportunity to come before you and present the finances of Stephenson County, Illinois. You can help us work through all this in a timely fashion. That we honor each other, respect each other, do what's best for the people of this county when it comes to their finances, because it is their money. We are looking to utilize for their better protection when it comes to sheriff's department. Just thank you for this opportunity, and I pray that you give us wisdom and discernment as we work to do this. So, on the agenda, before I entertain a motion, I would like to ask that we move items 9.1, 9.2, 9.3, 9.4 into the slot between 7.4 and 8.0. So, motion, make a motion to that effect. Do I hear a second? Second. And then, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Those, we need to get to those this morning. We don't want to have to rush through all this budget. All right. So meeting minutes from September 16th, 2024. And a motion to approve those. Motion, Speaker. Just give it minutes. All right. Good catch. I'll second it. And there were seconds. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Approval of claims. Claims. This month, cash requirements of $894,967.55. Manuals $451,160.03. Total is $1,346,127.58.
On your head.
Sure. Mary's making the motion. Most doing second. Any discussion? Those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. Public comment.
Stood on here again on behalf of the Stephenson County 708 Mental Health Board. We're very thankful for all the support the taxpayers and you give us. As I told you at the earlier meeting last year, the piece of the pie that was given to 708 board was $400,000. We submitted a request for a 4% increase, which would take us to 416. But it was kind of fun. The other day I was at my school board finance meeting and I heard the EAD has gone up by 11%. So in theory, you know, we'd love the 416, but as the pie is growing for the county, anything else you could give to 708 mental health would be truly appreciated. The needs are there. Obviously, when it talks about things like counseling and getting to kids at a young age, all those things can also help on the crime and violence. So, but again, whatever is the will of the finance committee and the county board, we will appreciate it. And thank you for all the work you guys do. Thanks.
Thank
you. Yeah, Ken Bull, going to German Valley, and it's superintendent of public works. I understand this is the finance committee and it's not an agenda item per se, but I think it's line 043, the ARPA funds that were discussed. At the last county board meeting, it was laid over till Tuesday night discussion. We just want to make ourselves available for any questions if you guys get to ARPA. I threw the short straw last night in a regularly scheduled village board meeting. The past two representatives, John Gallagher, our board member, and Mayor Wolf, who attended the last meeting, were unavailable. So I've been with the village since 2015, I've been involved in a lot of those decisions. And if you guys think you're gonna get to ARPA today, I can answer any questions when it gets there. Make myself feel this. Yeah.
I will just say that if we take a break or you want to stretch or something, I did bring some sustenance that's in the oven. So you're welcome to do that. You can run after this. Anyway. All right, thank you. Reports of committee. Carrie, you have the floor.
Thank you. I assume you all have my presentation in front of you. Received in your board packets. Yes, you want a
Yes.
copy? Yes. Okay.
Somewhere. Yeah.
Let me just think. Good morning. I am here to present the renewals for both property casualty work comp as well as the group health for the county. I'm going to have you flip to page 2 of my presentation. Yep.
DNC overview.
Yep, needs the overview. There's one typo on here, that buildings number should be 72 million, not 66. But again, just reminding ourselves what the property casualty work comp insurance covers. We cover 72 million. Last year, we covered 72 million in buildings. This year, that number bumped up to 84. That has to do with increased replacement costs. It costs a lot more each year as of late to rebuild buildings. The contents of the buildings remained about the same at 9 million. In the marine, which is all your equipment, that bumped up a little bit from 3 million to 3.7. You have a $5,000 deductible for all property coverages. Your liability or casualty coverages for general liability, public officials, employment practices, cyber liability, abuse, and law enforcement is $1 million per occurrence with a $3 million aggregate. Your current umbrella is $5 million, and we are quoting a higher option. We talked about that last time. I'll get to that in a moment. Generally speaking, in my municipalities, in most municipalities, the umbrella or excess coverage that goes over the top of your all of the casualty liability coverages, your auto liability, and your work comp. That is sort of on the low side if you compare yourselves to other municipalities. Again, it's a cost benefit analysis, so I have a $10 million umbrella. We'll talk about that in a moment. The various deductibles are listed there. Work comp, the payroll last year was 16 million. This year it's down a little bit to 13.5. And then the auto last year, there was 99 units covered. This year there's 105. So an increase there, $5,000 deductible on that one. Any questions on coverages? What we do, I mean, we go through this a lot, so I'm going to kind of go through quickly. If you have questions, please stop me. As always, with both property casualty and benefits, we go out to what we call go out to market, meaning we go out to any other carrier that can consider insuring a municipality county. As pretty typical for various reasons, most decline either due to, hey, the pricing that you're getting, we can't touch, or some elements of the exposure they don't like. As of late, a lot of carriers don't like jails. Also, they don't like nursing centers. Any questions on that? So I'm going to just jump right in. The renewal looks fantastic from ICRMT. Last year, the total cost was 900. Actually, it's 967. This year it's 933, so a 3% reduction, which is fantastic because actually I need to have you make some corrections on yours. The property values increased 15%, not 27. Autos increased 18%, not 35. The payroll decreased 11%, not 15.6. So sorry about the typos. That's what you have? Okay,
Yep.
great. I didn't update my own copy. Great. Okay, so anyways, with those pretty significant increases in values and exposures, your overall premiums went down, which is fantastic. And that is an element of two things. One, the losses finally fell off the loss history. They look back 5 years, we had some significant losses 5-ish years ago. Those have fallen off, making the underwriting calculations look a lot better. So you can see in that work comp went down significantly, which is fantastic. The package, which is everything else, that's your liability type coverages, your property, that only increased a little bit. And that's due to higher exposures that we're insuring, but it certainly didn't go up, 15%. Technically, it should be commensurate about with what you're insuring, and it only went just a little bit. So this is a huge win. I'm very happy with this renewal. I recommend the state with ICMT take this renewal.
I will say you even impressed Mr. Clark.
Yeah.
I spoke with him last night about that.
This is just a drill down. Again, I started at high level. This is a drill down of your premiums by line. And I will refer you kind of back to these numbers here. The increases in auto and property are here, and casualty are here, and then they're offset by, again, your liability went down 16%. And your work comp went down 30%. Which again, those two are direct relation to losses falling off into loss runs and no new losses getting added, which is great. We'll knock on wood there. Our loss control programming with ICRT is second to none. I think we've had a lot of the employees here, the department heads here, they attest to Mark Bell from ICRT does a fantastic job in reaching out and helping the department heads with ideas and safety programming. I do know he has spent some considerable time with the new nursing home administrator, and that is going very, very, very well. So that is a direct testament to how well the safety programming here has been working in the last 3, 4, 5 years. And then the increases, again, those really are, you buy more cars, you're gonna pay more premiums. You're increasing property values, gone up significantly, but the premium hasn't gone up too much.
Yeah, question. Sure. So back on page 2, we had last year 99 units at 4 million.
Yes.
Now we're down to 5. Is that because of the 20% costs, or what is that?
What's the value of the units? There's on the schedule of vehicles. I can give you
Okay.
guys the renewal. There's a ton of vehicles, and a lot of them are very expensive.
So it's a lot of people. It's coming down a little bit, but that's like 35% higher for
Yeah.
6 more vehicles. It's like, wow.
Yeah. Again, if you recall my conversations with you over the course of this year, the 2024 insurance marketplace is very hard, what we call a hard market. Auto is a big driver of that. There's a lot of catastrophic auto losses. Autos are a lot more expensive to fix these days. Very simple example, but if you extrapolate that to your fleets or vehicles in the United States, if you remember maybe 5, 7 years ago, you have a windshield, you crack it, you replace it. This time around, you've got heads-up displays on windshields. You've got a lot of wiring and technology in a windshield. A windshield doesn't cost $1,000 to replace anymore. It's 5 to 10 grand, generally speaking. And so some of our high technology vehicles we have here, but there's a lot of stuff that makes sense. Okay. Let's see. We did quote to increase the excess, the umbrella from 5 million to 10 million to just for further protection. If we wanted to increase the umbrella to 10 million, it would cost around $52,000 more in premium. Also, that 10 million umbrella would not go over the nursing home. The nursing home would remain under the current 5 million. Another point of really good news, I kind of was warning you all year that, hey, we might have trouble getting coverage from the nursing home. ICRT, due to the loss ratios going down with regards specifically to the nursing home, we are able to renew the nursing home as is, as it has been in the past. So it still has the liability as is, as well as under our current 5 million umbrella, which is again, huge win. Will that happen next year? So, again, to bump up the protection from 5 million to 10 million on everything else but the nursing home would cost another 52,000. That is a cost benefit analysis. As your insurance agent would recommend bumping it up to 10 million. $52,000 is a lot. Big pill to swallow. We can talk about that if you wish, but wanted to get that in front.
What are the advantages and disadvantages from a
We are in a lawsuit happy society. I think about all of the history of lawsuits and losses with regards to specifically the police, law enforcement exposure that the county has. I think of active shooter type situations. Overall, in the course of the insurance industry, several years ago, what was a $1 or $2 million umbrella, now the minimum is 5 million. What was 5 million requests is now 10, just because of the lawsuit in society. That would be your advantage, more protection. The advantage is more protection. The disadvantage, it's expensive. It's $52,000.
okay?
Moving on to benefits. This is a history of your benefits for the last 4 years. As you know, there was two hand designs offered for a long time. Then a couple years ago, we expanded it to 6 in efforts to try to increase those deductibles. And last year, we narrowed it down to 4, and those are the 4 that we have in place. Is that bottom box? Just as a reminder. So each year, the IRS dictates what the minimum individual deductible for an HSA eligible plan is. In 2023, it was 1,500, so that's why we had that. And if you recall, our plan went from 10/1 of 2023 all the way to 12/31 of this year. So it was a 15-month plan. So that's how we were able to offer a lower $1,500 HSA deductible. This chart shows 2024, it bumped up to 1,600. 2025, it bumped up to 1,650. So per the IRS, the minimum HSA eligible deductible plan is 1,650. Carriers can they can go down to 1,650, or they can go say, hey, our lowest is X. So again, these are all the IRS dictated minimum family deductibles allowable, as well as max for HSA. High level overview of claims versus premiums paid for medical is, as you know, hasn't been a good story for a while. We've had a really bad year here, but the good news is it is trending in the right direction. This is my projection, just kind of based on averages through August. So, good story. However, overall, to put it bluntly, Blue Cross Blue Shield is looking at a $2.4 million loss on this account for the last 4 years, which is nothing surprising. We've been talking about that. I've shown you the claims this time we'll talk, so there's no surprises there. Our marketing efforts, again, blanketed the marketplace. As you can see, we did receive a Blue Cross Blue Shield fully insured quote for both ancillary and medical. We did get a whole bunch of declinations as well. Not surprising. So
It's still good for mutual.
I know. I put a file in it. So here is, again, sorry for the small print. I think I sent an additional page. Hopefully it's easier to read. Here is the renewal. Current versus renewal. Again, the lowest HSA eligible plan offered by the Blue Cross Blue Shield is $1,800. So that $1,500 HSA now has to be at $1,800. The rest of the plan design are the same. So just to reflect, we have $1,000 PPO, $2,500 PPO, and then $3,500. Okay. You can see the differences in monthly costs there. Everything else is the same in terms of co-pays, co-insurance. The only one difference is that $1,500 HSA now goes to $1,800. I have the bottom line costs listed there. Estimated total premiums this year would be around 3.9 million. Again, that will change based on the number of employees coming on and through the end of the year, and making the assumption that the same people pick the same plans, the same splits. The premiums are going to be around almost 7 million, for an increase of about 19%. I will comment that Blue Cross Blue Shield originally came in at a 28% increase. We pushed back and said, yeah, no, this isn't going to work. We've got it down to about a 19% increase. If we, assuming the ancillary stays with Blue Cross Dearborn, we get an additional 2% decrease in medical. And so frankly, that's what kicks the Mutual of Omaha's and the principals and the standards on the ancillary out. Because if you incorporate the 2% discount on the medical, by staying with Blue Cross on the ancillary, no one can compete. Any questions on that? It's best news. One else could still compete with this. So last year, when we moved to the 4 plans with the deductibles, the committee decided to go ahead and offer HSA contributions to employees to match the deductibles more or less. So that bottom 2 lines down there, last year, based on the splits of who enrolled in what plan in the HSA, the county kicked in around 200,000. I don't know the exact numbers now. You can still do the same. What I would offer up and for suggestion or discussion is maybe take that down by 20%. Most people usually have leftover monies in their HSAs. So to save a little bit of money, perhaps maybe you contribute just a little bit less, say 80% of that. Something to consider. You can keep it the same. You can change it and match that $1,800 HSA now. This is something we should probably discuss.
If we kept the contribution the same, but let's look at just the bottom. 1,800. I'm assuming the rest of them will go up a little bit as well, or no? We got 1,800. Does that go to 2,500 then? Do we limit to 3, or we still keep the 4 slots?
You can do whatever you want. it is up to you. We just took these last year based on kind of where we think people would have ended up. And so your deductible as a family is gonna be higher than your deductible as an individual.
Right.
So if you're a family or employee with a spouse or employee with a child, you kind of contributed commiserate. So if you were to do apples to apples, to do the same this year, then yes, you do 1,800. You can still keep 2,000, 2,500 free. Really do whatever you want.
Yeah, if
So
you're going to the bottom, we're going up to 100, doesn't make sense. I'm too. But,
The other consideration, I'll give you the pros and cons. If I recall last year, the zero deductible plan went away, was replaced by the 1,500. The perception is, hey, you're taking away something from employees, you're taking away benefits, right? Kind of the same thing here, the $1,500 deductible goes to 18, so you're taking away benefits. So to counteract that, perhaps you might want to match again. Again, there's a cost benefit analysis to everything, right? If you want to match, it's going to cost more. If you want to take it down, it's going to cost you less. And again, adherence to the labor contracts, I'm not sure the ins and outs there. You have to take that into consideration too, and I don't know what that means.
and then you know if it makes an impact.
Anytime you can change. It's. Well. Doesn't necessarily mean. Substantiated.
Yeah, market consideration. That's. Mark for all of this. Always know the companies.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
I just wanted to speak on what we budgeted last year. We were planning for worst case scenario because we did not know what was going to happen in terms of what programs the employee would pick. So we picked what would the plan be that would cost the county most, and let's just go with everyone's going to pick that. So that's what we budgeted for. So the impact of the budget or on the budget this year is not as significant because we already planned for that last year. Same thing with the HSAs. We saved a lot of money because we planned for the worst, and a lot of people did not go with the HSA plan. So just something to consider.
So what I hear you saying is that bottom rung is gonna go up 1,800. We can either fully fund that or we could say fund them all at 80%.
You could fund them all, I picked 80% just as kind of an arbitrary number. You could fund them at 50, you could fund them at 90. You do.
Yeah.
Just kind of echoing what Chairman Holmes said, my concern would be that you increase the deductible and decrease the amount that you send the money that we're saving is not attorney's fees and later.
So from a budget standpoint, Adrian, if we fully fund the HSA accounts, that bottom line goes up to 1,800.
So she's telling her she can put it in a spreadsheet.
Is
If I
that,
fired up my computer, I have a spreadsheet, I can get you that number. For a minute. I have it.
just be nice to know what the impact would be. I wouldn't expect it to be.
Round numbers, let's say this, but 200 goes to 50,
Yeah.
300 max. Again, and you're not gonna be able to predict it because we don't know what the splits are in terms of, does everyone have this sheet in there? If I can, you refer to that real quick? Yeah. Thank
And
you.
you got the current and renewal. So that's the cost of the employee.
And, so see these splits here, right here, 86 are in HSA, the lower HSA, 88 are in cloud, and 6 are in the 2,500. So I suspect they'll probably stay along these lines. So using these numbers, we can calculate, you know.
Oh, that's on a different sheet. You sent a different sheet.
That's a
I
separate
remember
sheet.
seeing it. Okay, so you got,
It's $25,000.
that's, that impact, I didn't expect it to be that great.
It's $300 for 86.
Okay.
My number was like 230. Um. My understanding of the splits between the county contribution and employee is it's 78-22 now.
It would be, yeah, right.
It will be as of January 1st. And it goes, it's 78-22 when it was 80-20. So that saves you
We're gonna
2.
pick up some money.
Yeah.
So. Be nice to take from this account. Okay. So, certainly, yeah, okay.
Anything else I can answer?
Any other questions on that?
Thoughts? The dental stayed flat, stayed the same as last year.
Okay, that's it.
Again, sorry for the eye chart here. The dental renewal is the same as last year, which is great. No changes. No changes to coverages, no changes to premium. Same for the vision and life and accidental death and dismemberment. Which is great. So what we recommend is to renew with Blue Cross Blue Shield of Dearborn for all lines coverage. Keep the current 4 plan signs. We'll add one bullet point to that is the HSA contributions for 2025. Again, we talked about ins and outs of that. You'll have to decide what you want to do in that. We'll continue the employee communications campaigns, which centers around education, consumerism, wellness. Also add more, I have received some feedback that to send more information on the bells and whistles that Blue Cross Blue Shield offers to employees, wellness discounts, gym memberships, things of that nature. Again, when we talk to employees or communicate with employees, we always recommend they download the app, they have it right at their fingertips, have an online account, and all of the information and bells and whistles are right there at their fingertips, right on the app, and the online accounts. In addition to employees get communications directly from Blue Cross Blue Shield, which highlights wellness programs and things of that nature. This year, Diamond Brothers sent direct to employees health awareness infographics once a month, just kind of reminders of benefits of healthy eating, mental health, getting your levels checked, things of that nature. We are always open to feedback in terms of what employees want to see, so we can tailor those communications accordingly. My original recommendation was to amend the rates contributions to the HSA down by 20%, but I think I'm going to probably keep them commensurate with the deductibles. My rationale is most, 80% of employees will have leftover monies in paychecks. Again, those roll over indefinitely. Any question? Pending approvals from this committee and the national board approval, next steps would be meetings. We do open enrollment all online. So keeping the plans the same. If there's a need for meetings, maybe not. Probably 100 employees on the plan changes, so by now each employee is very familiar with his or her plan. Nothing changes this year. We are always available to talk through things, of course. The advantage to online open enrollment is all of the paperwork and documentation is housed in the system, so paperwork doesn't get blown away in the wind. So if there's an audit, it's good. And again, just ongoing monthly employee communication.
I'm just saying, after that was a pretty big change we went from last year.
It was.
Everything I heard.
Thank you.
So I appreciate
We had big audiences in our meetings. It was great. It was great. It really was. People asked very, very good questions. We met one-on-one with a lot of people with their individual health issues and concerns, and it was great. One thing I forgot, getting back to the property casualty piece, it's always been asked what the nursing center only premiums are. And I have that, so I did have the data, and gave the data in the board packets, but I do have that.
Yeah, we got that signed.
Did you?
It's great.
Okay, so you have that. Okay. It's a good story. It's gone down a lot. Happy about that. Anything else I can answer?
Any questions? Can you, Carrie, while we got time, during these other reports, get a firm number on the 1,800? If we fund that.
I will do that. I will do that.
And we'll come back and
Just the
come back
individual.
to state those.
So are you looking at, like, last time we did so much for individual enrollment, so much for state and spouse, so increasing each one, or just keep those the same?
Keep it the same and just do the 1,800 versus 1,500.
Yeah. we talked about it. We were not taking that.
I just asked if that was gonna cause issues because a lot of employees,
They're gonna say, oh.
they
we
have
did it.
separate, employee spouse coverage, employee children coverage, family coverage.
And those
They're not-
variables are shifting as well.
Okay.
That's why I asked.
What there's any precedent for. Well, look at this, that increases. From our healthcare. It's basically wrong, there's nothing we can do. It's not really, we're not taking it. Still trying to go back and putting that on, yeah.
It's so, it's just.
It is.
It's a important part.
This. I don't know, maybe too much.
So that is a birth certificate.
Instant change. Right.
From the company.
So, let's see, if round numbers then. That was through September, is that through?
That's what we did. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, those other lines are not going up. You're still fully funding.
Yeah, they're deductibles. For family coverage, still covered. All deductibles. No, they don't. Oh, okay, I must have just.
Only the individual HSA, only the 1,800. Everything else stays the same. The 1,000 is there. The
Yeah, nobody else
2,000,
is
the
losing.
35 is there.
The 1,800 deductible.
The
Or
1,800.
coverage of the spouse, or did the deductible minimum stay change for them? So that's what.
Okay, sorry, yep.
That's what, on page 11, the second to the bottom line, it says, the 2024 was 1,500, 2,000, came up to 206,500. What I was talking about, was changing that 1 to 1,800 and then seeing what that,
Right.
that number 206 changed to.
So through September, the county has deposited $167,760. So just running that math out, if all things being equal, staying the same, the county will have deposited $222,680 for 2024. So just, we'll keep that number in mind and then I'll calculate somewhat of a prediction of what the $1,800 is, right?
Yep.
And can you confirm if the other deductibles are not changing? And okay. So we will get back to that in a minute.
Chairman,
Yeah.
let me ask you a question. It's, so Carrie's asking for an increase of 765,000, but she made a comment about the budget not impacting, I'm sorry, walk me through that again.
So last year, we had no idea what our employees were going to pick in terms of plans. So with, I think it was 195 employees had the zero deductible plan.
194.
Yes. So we were thinking, okay, they're going to pick the plan that is the most expensive for the county. So that's what we planned for. So come to find out, it's kind of a split between the top two. So we actually saved money and we budgeted a lot more than we needed in the individual funds. So the impact, now that we see the trend, the impact is not as large. So we aren't seeing, the big jump like the overall premium.
You might have a hard time quantifying instead of broken out into individual budgets. Depending on.
So I think what Adrian was saying was, look at the slide. You may have budgeted based on, hey, most people are still gonna stay at the lowest deductible. That's how you budget it. Meaning we're most conservative case. What actually happened was, we did get a good split.
So the county saved money on our portion of the.
From what you assumed and what actually,
Yes.
so this year it'll be
The
more
better,
in line.
better guess.
Thank you.
Right, we'll come back to that. Madam Administrator.
I will make mine brief. Chairman and I have an upcoming city county meeting next week with the holiday on Tuesday. I have two Wednesdays. Okay, I'm saying I have two calendar agendas, one for Tuesday, one for Wednesday. Ready for partnership board meeting was September 25th. They have a proclamation to the board for October being manufacturing month. They will have the community guides updated and printed early in the year, early after the first of the year. strategic planning subcommittees are active and going, and I think we're kind of falling into the groove about how often they need to meet, still reaching their key things. I went to a land bank meeting on October 1st and also updated the Stephenson County properties. That was just over a year ago, 2 years ago. So I will update with that. TCM weekly calls continue. I've also been meeting either with myself or with committee chair and Marcos weekly. Staying on top of things there. UCCI, we are awaiting the login for the annual salary and fringe benefit survey. We got the notice that it was coming, still have not gotten the portal, but that is usually one of the big projects towards the end of the year for our office. We have been notified of the labor negotiations starting for the circuit clerk and highway department. They are continuing with UAW, but going through a different local, so they're switching offices as part of the delay of getting those negotiations starting. We approved the the RFP for the farm lease at mill rates, planning and development, so that is posted. Will be coming forth in the next month. And as of this week, I've been the administrator for 6 years, so.
Any questions? And finance director, Lieutenant.
I don't really have a report per se, but I just wanted to mention a couple of things. There's been some confusion about the difference between personnel requests and supplemental requests and how those are approved. So just going to touch on that. Supplemental requests are funded through our capital fund. So it's a whole separate fund. Personnel requests should be built into the individual budgets. Those are requests by department heads that are over and above what the budget policy states for the COLA for that year. We don't have the capability to fund those through the capital fund like the supplemental requests. So department heads should be providing kind of two different budgets, one with the personnel request included, one without. I assumed that department heads kind of understood what needed to be presented at the committee level, but there's been a lot of confusion with that. So I will be sure to drive that home next year, and I think we're going to include that process in the budget policy today.
Any questions? And
Mr. Chairman, I apologize, Mr. Gilbert, because you get to hear it all again.
all good.
All right, so, the link to the September report was sent to everybody on Sunday. This report I'm referring to, it's also in your packet. I hope you've had a chance to review it. Bottom line, total county funds as of the end of September were down slightly over August, about 736,000, which sounds like a lot. Really not, when you consider our payroll that month alone is over 1.2 million. AP is 1.2 million, so it's actually pretty good, especially in a month where there was a very, very small property tax distribution. So that's why, and you may recall, our auditor discussing the value of reserves. That's why we try very hard as we go through these budget discussions to maintain that reserve. So I just want to draw your attention again to the page with the yellow, the investments page. I just had 3 vehicles that matured this month. Next month, this page is going to be a lot longer. I just made 13 different new investments. I'm trying to ride the interest train as long as I can. So I put a lot of diversity in terms of treasury bills, bankers acceptance notes, federal home loan, the bank discount notes, to try to squeeze as much interest out of as many funds as I possibly can. So I might add an extra page to next month's report to accommodate those additions. Below the investments, you'll see interest on the debt. There's not a lot of activity that happens here. It's just brought to my attention that perhaps not everybody is reviewing this. So you know exactly where we stand. You look at the bottom of page 3 at any point relative to the noise crossing that. Just wanted to highlight that. again, the one fund that continues to struggle. I do make a note of that at the bottom of every page, so you know at the end of every month, that fund status. So, all in all, it's good news, even though we've been down a little bit, just month over month. It's just the normal course of cyclical spending. The one thing I did want to point out, Mr. Jogers noticed this as well. If you pay attention to the cover page, that's sales tax, income taxes. We get those every month. They're down this past month, and I have a preview of the sales taxes that we are receiving this month, and they are also down to the point that they're the lowest since August of 22. So not a great piece of news. However, in October, we typically get a higher income tax payment. So hopefully it will be balanced. But a couple of months where we see these declines is something to keep an eye on. Usually that kicks back up toward the end of the year into January because of holiday spending, the sales taxes. So I just want to have that on your radar in case there's another dip. I didn't want it to be a big surprise, but as of this point, I'm not really worried. Just keep it in mind. Does anybody have any questions about the monthly report?
I think that is attributed at all to the increase.
I think that's just groceries. And the county receives we get taxes in a different way. So like there's an extra 1%, that's it, and that applies to the unincorporated areas of the county. So Freeport has no role whatsoever in that. So in the public safety tax, while it dips and increases a little bit, that's always been fairly steady. So it's just this time of year where the dip is a little deeper. So not worried. And I know we talked about personal property replacement tax before, what the state is doing in terms of diverting money away from the local government distributed fund, which makes our replacement taxes lower. This month's check was $137,000. I get this 8 times a year. And just for some context as to what the state has done to local government, last year it was $231,000. 2 years ago, it was $373,000. So the hits are real. I don't know if they're sustained at this level, but the trend is not looking good. So that was always a really good revenue source that gave us some flexibility across multiple funds. So again, going into budget discussion, something to be.
You know where they rerouted that?
It's probably in a lot of different places. So it's twofold this year and the previous year. A little bit of diversion because the rate that local governments get has continually declined. There's a movement to see that changes and that we maybe go back. We'll never get back to where we were, but hopefully a higher rate given to local governments. But the past couple of years, there have been a lot of amended corporate tax returns. So the estimates were overestimated by the state because they didn't take into account amendments. And those amendments were significant. So basic corporate tax code changes that I won't even pretend to tell you I understand, but they resulted in negative impact to local governments. Sorry, I feel like the very bad timing. So if you don't have any questions, let's move on to better news. Okay. So, property taxes. So the fourth distribution of property tax dollars was last Friday. It was the last substantial distribution until next summer. So this is again the point where I like to highlight the challenge of having a fiscal year that does not align to the property tax collection year. So when we're done here in the end of October, November, these funds will look pretty healthy and kind of flush with cash. But recall, that's got to get us to next July when the next source of property tax comes in, the next distributions rather, because a lot of funds, not all, a lot of funds are dependent on property tax distributions. So good news now that we've gotten significant money in. The county got 3.4 million last week. Great news. There are still another 425,000 or so left to be collected. Hopefully we'll get pretty close. We're only about 4.15% away from being 100% collected. So that's good news too. We did mail out friendly reminder taxpayer cards again this year to people who had not yet had a chance to make their payments. We sent out 978 reminders, but those 978 reminders covered almost 1,800 pieces of property that have been unpaid. So we have a lot of people who own multiple parcels. One property owner has 119 who didn't pay any of it. So that's a little context there. So, if people don't make payments by the end of the day today, I have to include them on a list to get certified delinquent notices, which will be due next week. It's very expensive, but we do add a fee to their bill to cover that. But if you've ever had to send certified mail, you know how much expense it adds to your mailing costs. This is a little more important. The last day to pay taxes before being published is next Tuesday. So the publication will appear October 23rd in the Voices. My hearing for tax sale judgment is November 1st, and the tax sale will be November 7th. It's kind of the signposting for the rest of the year. Do you have any questions about any of that? And again, with the link that I sent to you this weekend, I also sent a link that gives you this information here that shows the distributions. If you want to go and review what the county got by fund, you can also see how Mill Race is doing. You can see 115 pages of tax distribution by any district you like. But if you want to discuss any specifics, just give me a call. Any other questions? Thank you. You want me to discuss that now or later?
Since you're on your report, let's get to it.
Okay, all right. So later in the agenda, you will be voting on approving the sale of surplus properties. There are 16 different resolutions. Those resolutions pertain to 22 parcels, several of which will be combined. That's why there's 22 pieces of property, but only 16 resolutions, because these were all parcels that were successfully bid upon during our surplus auction. So this is generally a very good thing. These are properties that have languished unpaid for years and years and years, have been under the county trustee program. County doesn't want to own property. We want responsible taxpayers to own it. So these people have come forward, successfully bid. What you are approving is the transfer of that ownership that needs to go into their names. And then that's their responsibility. They are forward to pay taxes. Everybody wins here. So they've gotten property for a very low cost. And after another year, they will begin, we hope, to pay taxes on those parcels. And the county and the taxing districts will regain a small amount of money from that purchase price that you see there. I would always recommend approving these kinds of transactions, and I hope that you will.
All right, we'll get back to that shortly. Anything else for the treasurer? So, moving back through, we're gonna attempt to, new business next. 9.1 approval of the quote, property liability and workers' comp. Carrie, can you move that back? I think this is kind of a no-brainer. The only question we gotta answer is, do we wanna add another 50 grand and $10 million in coverage? It's a mistake.
Stephanie raises a good point. There's only increments of 5. I can't go to 6, 7, 8, 9, 7, 5, 10, and I can't go to 15.
So with no increase in the umbrella, we're saving 30,000.
34,000.
Increase the umbrella, we're actually going up.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Can the umbrella be lifted at any time? We like to do the umbrella at 5 million next month, move it to 10.
Yes, let me send a quick email to confirm that, but yes, you can amend.
Okay.
It's just, it's like adding a car.
Right.
For any payroll, let me know.
What would be the point of that?
I get to see all the rest of our expenses first,
Gotcha.
and then we could go back to the. I don't know, my gut tells me that 50 grand is gonna be a lot of money at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's,
And so as much as I'd like to go to 10 million, and I think that's the thing to do. Fiscally, I think I need to wait on that if I could do it. That's just kind of where I'm at.
understood. Well, I think, is that a safe assumption to make? Gary? I mean. we
I
could
think so.
Still potentially bring it up.
Here's what I would suggest. You still have time. It's October. Your plan renews 12/1. If you approve as is at the 5 million today, bring it to the board next week, the board approves. Next month, you can amend it, still in time for your renewal, if the answer is no. If Todd does not get back to me from ICRP in a reasonable amount of time, say yes or no, that we can do it mid-year, you still have time to bring it to the board if you decide to go to the 10, and you have to make that decision before the renewal. See what I'm saying?
We got next one.
Yeah, so I would agree with you, table it, and let me get to it.
In light of that, I would entertain a motion to approve this renewal as stated that the value of 933,802. So, have a motion. Second. Any other discussion? Mr. Bush, is there anything you'd like to hear on that before we vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, approval of the quote for employee health insurance. So we have essentially the same plan, with the exception of the bottom. The HSA has to move from 1,500 to 1,800. We have an expected number. For the contribution. Contribution last year was 206,500.
The contribution last year, to clarify, in actual terms, that 206,500 is not correct.
That's what we planned for.
No, we planned for 378.
Okay.
Give or take.
Right.
We calculated 378 based on conservative worst case scenario. What will actually get contributed this year will be 224,000, give or take, based on the splits. Changing only
1,800.
to 1,800, leaving everything else the same, that is estimated at 242,800.
And we have no changes on the deductibles upstream.
No. I take it back. The family would go to 3,500 instead of 3. I believe, doing quick math. So that includes the 1,800 single HSA and the family 35. That's the max family. Both of those numbers in my calculation is 242.
242, which is over 1,000 less if we'd actually planned for that.
Says current.
Think so.
Yeah.
Match, probably. So that's, you know, in 20 an increase, 19,000. Yes. I'm terrible at blackjack. I can't get in my head.
Make a motion to see. Approve that, Stone accepted the 1,800, this is the 1,500 contribution. 242 contribution. 242.
It's the 1,800 and the 3,500? It's the 1,800.
The 1,800 and the 3,500 is in that 242.
Oh, it is, okay. Yeah, that's what I did.
With your numbers.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
So, I'm sorry.
One real quick thing, I'm just gonna email this, you can. Hold on one second, let me just put it on the screen so you can look at it real quick. Just to triple check. Sorry, this will be easier to conceptualize it.
Again, you have a number of 2%.
So, this is the number we calculated last year. Just assuming everyone would move to HSA, that was very conservative. This is taking the HSA splits on what actually happened, and then upping the HSA single to 18 and the family to 30. And again, what's actually going to be deposited estimated this year is 224,000. And upping it to 1,835 just bumps that up to 19. Bumps it up 19. Estimated, again, assumes those exact splits. I think that's hard to predict. Hopefully that helps.
So we have a motion, there it is, to use the 1,800
In
and the 3,500.
Fully
I
funded.
didn't fully fund
If you're picking up, it's like we're picking up some money to on, production, on. Some of that, and then 2% contribution side.
So just a quick, so this is the revenue side of the insurance fund. So these are employee chargebacks that we charge to each fund. So we planned for the most expensive plan to the county, least expensive plan to the employee last year. So you can look at the budget. We underestimated our revenues here just because of what people actually chose. So I think with the split that we have, based on Carrie's numbers, we'll get over $1 million in employee contribution revenue. So that's quite a drastic jump. Yeah.
Offset. So it's just, you know, to me, it's a shared experience. All right. So
Did you get a second?
I did not hit
A second.
So I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Mr. Bush, do you have any questions on any of that? Hearing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Gary, once again, I appreciate your persistence and professionalism and the way you put things together. easy for us to understand and statement in this, this most of this. Well,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sale of surplus properties. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 16. For a total of 7,972, 9,356.
I move to approve the sale of surplus properties as presented.
We have a motion and a second. Those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Now we'll pass that along to signature. And thank you for the explanation and your due diligence and all that.
Yeah.
Now to the fun part, 9.4. The levy.
I have color copies in case anybody wants one.
I'll go pass one. So Peter sent out 2 items earlier. Hopefully everybody can get a chance. One was a history
Yeah, I also have copies of that.
and one was the, and one was, calculation.
Okay, so the tax levy history is just gives you a summary of what we've requested in years past, going back to 2015. There are some funds that have changed quite drastically, others have not. So I just wanted to provide that to get a point of reference. So let me go to the screen for this. I did take into account the please. So the main source of confusion with this, is the board voting to take the CPI. They're actually not voting to take the CPI. They built in the CPI, eliminating rate that we receive, which is included in the calculation of the taxes. So what the board is voting on, we have the right to take up to 5% over what we asked for last year. So that's what the board is voting. You can take any variation between 0 and 5%. But since we are a P-South county, we can only take up to 5%. We can ask for 5% over what we asked for the previous year. So all of these, it's a lot of calculation, but the CPI rate is built into this calculation along with the increase in, assessed value of the county. So if we kept the levy the same, we have the right to move the levy amounts around. So we can decrease one levy, increase another without increasing our overall tax. So that's what I did here. Fund 33, which is IMRF. It's very healthy. In years past, we've had a county contribution rate of over 7%. Last year it was 2, a little over 2. And this year it's going to be 3.64. So that rate has dropped drastically. Therefore, the funds in that, the dollars in that fund have been able to grow. So I feel there is wiggle room in that levy. So what I did was I decreased IMRF by 126,000 and increased, mental health for the 708 board because they asked for 416,000. I do, Mark First was in here earlier asking for more if we do have those dollars. So that is an option as well. And then I increased the general fund levy by 100,000. I do feel like there is more wiggle room in the IMRF levy. If we find that we need to go that route. So right now, the committee needs to vote whether or not we are going to increase our levy ask,
Yeah,
which would in turn increase
we're not getting
taxes.
into the individual contributions.
Exactly. We can move the levies around at a later date. We're just voting on, do you want to raise taxes or not?
So if we do not increase this, and in terms of the levy itself, how does that sit with our general financial health between the
Well, that's why I wanted Lindsay Fish to talk about the health of the general fund through the audit, which can be her presentation. So we have about, so our expenses for 2025, as it stands, is about 16.3 million. Our 6-month reserve would be 8.15. So our cash carry forward estimate at the end of this year is 8.4. However, we do have some cash carry forward built into the budget as it stands now, which would take it down to 5. All of that money was used.
So you're saying the cash carry forward and building into the budget is not a voting.
Yes. Cash carry forward is basically what you have in the bank that you can bring into the budget to fund your expenses.
We no longer have 6 months. Expenses.
Correct.
Yes. That part.
However, just, spoke with the sheriff. There's about $500,000 in unspent salary. We budgeted salary line items that it's most likely back pay that was not spent or retirees. Yes. So that can be built into the reserves as well. So that's another component to consider.
Can we call the school board, see if they can reduce their. Bill was not nice to be distributed.
Like I said, I do think there's some wiggle room with IMRI. Yes, your forward amendment fund is going to be $3 million.
Did you increase mental health by?
26,000.
Yeah, I think I had some discussion. It might have been on the health department contribution. Would you like to comment on that? Well, where it goes, do we need to levy that money?
Well, I think it's the finance director's right now to discuss what to increase the budget. You can rearrange the levies.
Part of that, in my mind, is that money is now sufficient.
I spoke about the general contribution to the money.
Okay.
Just something like this.
So the 5% would be 530,000 over what we asked for last year.
What's the impact of the?
It's so, it's,
Depends where they live.
yeah, it depends where they live. It depends what it is.
Because there are 174 different tax rates. And the rates range between like 7 to 14. Because if you commit to what, this is what the difference is, that might be for 10% of people. It is another target.
Everything's going up, folks.
Yes, Adrian, that 5% you got down. Does that
Yes.
include that other 1% that the state is already building in?
So the limiting rate, the CPI that they build into the limiting rate,
Yeah.
that's already included in all the calculations.
They're 5%.
Yes.
So. What was the, what was the levy last year?
10,609,000.
That's the 600. And if the. Help me understand, they built in an increase. 3.4% increase, why is it going down? The EAV went up, didn't it?
We're a capped county. You will never get the full extension. Because of all the
No, I don't.
calculations built into this.
But if I understand percentages right, that 10.609, if I'm, in my head, if it's going up 1.024%, that should be closer to 11.
Right, it just,
Especially if EAV went up by 11%, it should be even better.
right, but the EAV there's also a rate setting EAV, which is usually about $25 million less. So that's built into the adjusted EAV of what the calculations are in this. Historically, we've never received the full levy amount that we asked, no matter what if you increase it by 5% or not.
Right. I'm just talking pure numbers.
Pure numbers, just with all of these calculations built into it,
It doesn't make sense to me, Bernie. As you're saying, you bumped up the general fund 100,000, it's 20,000, 24,000, 14,000 less. You got- It's great.
I built in the 100,000 increase into this amount right here. So last year we asked for 5,334,000.
So that's not, the 10.6 isn't. I'm saying that's
That's what
got
we asked.
last year, not
That's what we
for.
asked for. That's what we can. Yeah. I'm sorry.
I think we're missing a count.
Okay, so total extended, I apologize, is 10,610,000.
Okay. Gotcha.
Because we didn't get a straight one from the state.
Because there was, multiplier,
Yes.
countywide multiplier of 3.4% based on every single person. And we didn't know that was gonna happen, because it hasn't happened in decades. So this, you have to kind of keep the unpredictability factor in there too, and we heard from the assessor one particular area is looking at 34% increase in assessed values. So, I mean, and if she doesn't do that, everybody gets a multiplier to balance out the disconnect in values in one area. And that's kind of, you just can't keep up the rest of property values. So she either increases the assessment in the area where it's impacting values, or everybody underwrites that. And that's what happened last year. And we could never have predicted that.
Hmm. So on the districts, do you know what these increases represent? Increases in what? And I get the numbers themselves. The time, if you over a percentage, when was the last time we had a bump?
It was in 2020.
The last time we actually increased it? So,
It's 22.
yeah, I don't, because I know we were flat last year. Well, folks, I think if everybody's had a chance to look over some of the. We're gonna have to increase here, probably do some of both. And to do everything and need it back. Yeah, there's back, right? You're already down to 5.4, and then do something. Just based on what the facts are. Isn't even gonna do well. Anybody have any thoughts on this? No. So I should definitely do whatever the committee wants to recommend it for board. It's still gonna get exercise.
The order of this is a little challenging for me because I think we need to go down through the budget and then come back to this. It's just questioning that. Parsons.
So I was asked for this up because we'd like to try and address it. You have any thoughts on that? Could we wait until next month? I mean, if we don't get through it today, we can't meet again before. That's what I'm saying.
If I
I
may,
don't see us getting through all of this.
can we just can part of it later in this meeting? I guess maybe since we can't. The agenda is on schedule. It's possible.
To see the big picture, that's what you're saying.
Yeah, see,
I agree with that. That's-
But I don't know that we can wait for a whole month.
I don't have any. All right, we will hold that and come back to it before we end this week. All right. So we will move into budget items. I have general corporate department 000.
So we cannot move forward because we don't have a levy.
We don't have a levy.
Yeah. That's why we. Last month,
That's why you all-
the budget.
So as it stands right now, The only component that I think is underestimated is the HSA contribution. Because of the new numbers for the increased deductibles and what we're going to reimburse the employees. So that is not built in to the overall picture for those funds that do contribute to health insurance. So with that just being determined, I'm gonna have to go back and rework that. So and there are also funds that the departments actually need to rework those, like the highway fund, motor fuel, because those two take health insurance out of both of those funds, but I can put the new numbers in, but I can't make those work because as it stands now with the new insurance rates, the highway fund is out of balance. There's a deficit. So Dale and Brian are going to have to go back and move those.
So we're gonna revisit some of this.
Yes. So I feel like at this point, we need to get the HSA and the insurance information rolled out to the departments. So those departments that need to rework their budgets have an opportunity to do so. With that said, I do think there's a lot of wiggle room in the IMRF levy. I think yeah,
So,
I just think that we could cover and manipulate within our levy request to cover our expenses as a whole.
No.
Yes. Right, that's without supplementals. So do we want to, right, I mean, there's so many different components that go into this big picture. And I understand your hesitation to move forward with anything without getting the big picture. So if we want to discuss the supplementals, I can do that,
well,
just to kind of give you an overview.
can we get into these, can we get through some of these budgets? Yeah.
Yes.
If we get through what we can, that will help us establish more of the big picture. And we can always come back to the supplementals. And the supplementals I've still got set aside for later discussion. And approval. That is item 9.5 on new business. Which is supposed to happen after we get through all these budget items. So I think unless anybody's got an objection, let's get through what budget items we can. And then we'll come back to that discussion on the supplementals. We get hopefully to the supplementals. So revenues, you're saying on 000, we can't finish because we don't know what we're gonna do there. Just yet. So what about 401? Is you gonna have to rework that based on?
No, it will not have to be reworked. So all of the 2025 requests are here. The sheriff did a great job of kind of putting in budget notes and kind of an explanation of why these line items did increase if they did. So the numbers highlighted in gray are part of the FOP contract. It's negotiated, so there is an increase of almost 10% for this department as a whole.
So
I would recommend approval of 401. Yes.
Your motion?
So if I may, so this line highlighted in pink, the sheriff was able to take that out of the general fund budget and put it into the capital fund, which if you look in the capital fund, there is a court fee that goes directly to into this court security and jail inmate medical costs. So by statute, these dollars can only be spent on certain things. So he did actually move that expense out of the general fund into the capital fund. And he has not spent, those dollars for quite some time. So it was able to cover the full cost of the jail inmate medical expenses. So that was a cost savings to the general fund.
So do I hear a motion to approve the 401 production budget as presented? Motion and second. Any questions or, thank you for being here, Mr. Chairman. Any questions for it? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Law enforcement.
So again, the FOP contract numbers are highlighted in gray. The overall increase is 20% in this department.
That's kind of hefty. Mr.
That was-
Chair, can I ask you to comment on that before we, any motions?
10%. Separation. Between administration. Department. And there's ordinance. And. There, so I would. Confident saying that 10% of that increase is nothing. Or was operating was well within. What I researched it on the vision, CMA about 6 to 9, or the 10% vision.
So most of that outside of the FP contract is coming from. That's, inflation, just increase costs.
It's almost double for 21.
The, look at the year-to-date numbers.
You mentioned an increase from 2020. I think it's the first time since then he's been almost fully staffed and there were positions created through the crime suppression unit as well. That's included in that. So you created more salaries within that.
How does that work? Or doesn't spend all, we allocated 3.9 million in the 2024 budget. Right now, at least as far as I can figure it, based on what I see here through 8/31. Well, you're spending it, and that money carried over,
Yes, that's cash going forward.
that's part of our case.
So when they said that Should have anticipated having about $500,000 and then spent on retirees' salaries.
Yeah.
Yes.
So he's doing a good job. Hank, too.
I'm sorry, to interrupt. When money is unspent, though, it isn't cash carried forward to that same line next year. It is deposited in the
Yes.
overall pot of the general fund. It's not, they don't get to start over with that money and add to it. Nobody does.
We could use some of that for supplemental stuff. Next year.
Not as it stands, no. Unless you want to increase cash carry forward, which we can do.
Recall there are a lot of departments, mine included, that the last quarter of the year is when a lot of our spending really happens. So that gap you see probably isn't a reliable one to use. That was a snapshot in time, end of August. We weren't even through the third quarter yet.
Well, what's the committee's part of this? And I appreciate the fact that last year's budget says spending. Here, do you see any ways to that?
I've given you the numbers that we operated with just the cost of living. There's really no way for me to, I mean, with my agency, it's a little bit different than everyone else's because they usually have minimal expense that they can foresee and they can stop, like office supplies, things like that. I can't tell you how many inmates I'm going to have. I don't know how much medical that they're going to require. I don't know how much food they're going to require, what the price of each of those plates are. Because every week, our plate, or actually every day, our plate count is different. If I have 35 inmates, it could be, and I don't know what the number is, so I'll just throw it out there. It's $4 a plate. If it goes to 65 inmates, now it's $3.50 a plate. So I don't know how that goes. And then if it goes down to 25, it could be $5.50 a plate. So I'm not really sure how all of that goes. When you're asking me to cut, I could, throw the dart and say, yeah, take, I guess, 10,000, but what's going to happen when I'm short? I don't know where that's going to happen. And I'm willing to do anything like Adrian said. We spoke about what the medical fee. Yes, I have used that for years, but it also took several years to build to that spot. Where that is we're going to use the whole fund this year. So next year I won't have that option to help you guys out with a $230 line item to pay for that. So I don't know how to actually answer that. I mean, that's kind of a straightforward question to cut. I'd have to really look at it and say if I'm over, what can I do to supplement this? There's not a whole lot of extra money. I understand that. The contract was very important for us to make sure that we got qualified employees in our office. We don't need any lawsuits, but that's a whole other correct. So we need those qualified people. Our backgrounds are just as intense as they've ever been. We're not going to do anything to jeopardize that, but we needed that contract in order to draw those people. Now, we're in the middle. We're not at the high when we look at those numbers and we're saying, wow, you really did a great thing. We were in the middle of the bottom. Now we're in the middle of the whole scale. So we're okay. So we could do that. I guess if someone had an idea, and I was just looking up their investigative expense, because that's going to be something that you look over. Year to date is $11,900. I have a $12,000 bill sitting on my desk and waiting for, because I'm not sure how close this budget is going to be, because I've already paid out the back pay for this year. That's already taken care of. So Adrian already has those numbers, but I'm going to add 12,000 just to our software for our child, our SVU with our child crimes. So that's going to bring that up to 23,000, and that's not including the other components that have to go to our investigations. The way that those happen to echo off of Stephanie is
we wait until the end of the year to see if we can afford these things. I mean, they are necessities, but they're, we don't have to have them right up front. So we usually wait till that October 15th area to see what we have that we can afford to buy. And then that's why our reoccurring costs are in November and December, because that's when we pull the trigger on these things to get them. That's why my costs or my expenses are more at the end of the year than they are. So I don't know if that paints a better picture. I just want to make sure you all understand what I have to go through. I mean, this is a confusing budget for all of you. I have 7 of them. It's even more confusing when you're putting all this together. And I do this by myself. I don't have a team. They give me the requests from the vendors to find out what their anticipated increases are, what they think things are going to go up. Are we going to have the supply? Do we have to find a different supplier? So I put all these things together. So I mean, I hate this word because it was used years ago, but there's no fluff here. There's no, I'm playing with this money. The only thing that I know that I don't know that we have to plan for is our retirees. Each one's around $30,000 when they retire, because of the group that we have right now held sick time. So they're all at 600 hours. When they're at 600 hours and they're getting paid X amount of dollars an hour, that's where that money's coming from. We have to be able to pay that out at the end. So that's why that number's there, and that's part of the reason that you have 500,000 over. And besides the fact that I don't have full staff yet, so you're gaining, $50,000 a person, and I'm still short 4 in law enforcement. We've been that way all year, so there's another 200. So that's where that extra money is. We're talking about trying to cut some.
You have questions?
I'm in agreement with him. I mean, I think with public safety, that's kind of hard to pick and choose, because with everything that's going on, I mean, I'm in agreement with him. I think it's pretty hard to pick where to cut, because we gonna need it.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion or questions for the chair? Thank you. All right, hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 403 Merit Commission.
This is, there was no increase in their commission.
I have a motion and a second. Do I hear any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Courthouse building. 701.
So one salary included in the FOP contract. The overall increase was 12.8%.
Yeah, we've got salary. Most of this looks like it's a problem, just the general thing for this function.
This is the building upgrades. Right now, we're looking at a grant to help all of our ADA compliant throughout the building. We are compliant, but as I said in court services the other night, it's slim. So we're looking for a grant for that. And besides the other upgrades for just getting paint on the walls, new carpet, trip hazards, things that there was an audit, I believe 19. We're still fixing things from that. So you can see on a few of those, you go all the way to the right to the notes, it does say building upgrades. And when I say upgrades, I'm not looking at, chandeliers and things like that. This is just simply lighting, which is going to decrease our electric bill. We're taking care of the heating. We should see a decrease in our heating bill, I hope. I mean, there's no way to predict that until next year after we have the system up and running. So some of these increases are, yes, they are inflation, and some of the other ones are, there's a little extra money that's going to have to go into some plumbing things and some painting and some electric that we're updating.
But the only thing I see in here that he might be able to squeeze down a little bit is an unforeseen repairs.
We are going to be starting Monday, new lighting and the new tiles that are all destroyed in the circuit clerk's office on the second floor, which is a very large area. We've had leaks for at least 3 years, and all of the tiles we're not replacing because as soon as we replace it, the next time it rains, we destroy tile. So we're going to need additional ceiling tiles, and the lighting project, obviously, we've got to replace all of their lights. So that's where that line is going to increase a little bit, or be used up here in the next week.
Gotcha. All right.
I hate to say that, but the numbers can't fool you because there's so many things. There's a domino effect on everything at that courthouse. I can't do this before I do this, but I can't do that before I do that. So, it's all in line, and that's one thing that started, because it's a holiday, or able to get in there for something.
Have a motion. Yes, I would. And a second. Any other discussion? There's some minimal items in here that come up here. Motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Recreation and conservation. Appreciate you being here.
Yeah, public safety building.
What?
Yes, 702, public
Oh,
safety building.
702, sorry.
Hold on, Chair.
Go ahead. Dang it. Got ahead of myself. I was looking at it like it's around recreation. Get ready.
Yeah, so there's, one salary impacted by the FOP contract. Increases to 0.13.
Yeah, it's pretty low. It's not much to run it, but,
Move to approve 72.
all right. Motion to approve. I hear a second.
Second.
And a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Thank you.
703.
So there is an addition of one miscellaneous expense line. We added $1,000 there. We did deactivate the temporary path maintenance fee. And I think the electric all Veterans Park decreased just because of what we've been spending historically.
Yeah, looks good. Now, a motion to approve. Rogers, second. Second.
Second.
Okay, fine. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? State's attorney, you go on. Second have to go back. No? Okay.
No, so the department head salary is according to state. The only addition in terms of lines is the Office on Violence Against Women grant. So this was submitted as a supplemental request, but the state's attorney actually has a corresponding revenue source from the state that corresponds to the $40,000 going out. There is also a revenue line in the general fund coming in. So I highlighted it on the supplemental request list as it's not a true supplemental, so there's no extra expense for the county. So that is the only difference outside of the COLA increases in the state's attorney's salary. %9 increase.
That 9% is artificial because of the.
Motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 802.
So highlighted in purple here is a personnel request that was included in the budget number. With just the 4%, it would be the $76,753. The public defender did include a gym membership supplemental request, which failed at committee, so that was so overall, I think it was a 16% increase in that line item for the support staff.
But the overall budget impact is 17.
Yes. So the public defender is also, he has some dollars that he's been receiving the past couple of years from the AOIC. He is planning to reimburse this increase for this year only. Moving forward, he does not know if he's going to be receiving those funds. So he's willing to do it this year
So we're gonna get additional revenue to compensate.
for the increase, yes. For this year, or for 2025 only.
Sounds like no brainer.
We had a lengthy conversation about that. I'd like to say we promise for this year, but not guaranteed for next.
It's fast moving forward.
Well, if we don't get it next year, we can always get another person. I know, well,
Let's see what he was trying, if there's two people that's included in it, you're trying to get one up to pretty much the same level as the other. Yeah, if you don't, then we have to look at other ways of. He don't know which way it's going. Could be good, it could not. But however, the committee voted.
So there's also a supplemental request that was submitted by the sheriff, row benches and carpet in the county boardroom. So the public defender is willing to pay for that out of these AOIC funds if this increases.
it's not gonna be something. But we don't know before. Yeah, I'm not. It's kind of like having everybody separate. Is there a reasoning behind that?
Well, like I said, with the money that he has, that's what he's using it.
Extra person.
Well, we looking at it just as a line item, not a person.
Overall support staff. It's just, if it's 1 or 10, it's that's what you got.
And actually, we really could look at it as a person. At least that's what we was told.
When you think about other departments, like the sheriff's department, the individual person is not separate.
That's true.
It's kind of, they're lumped together as a category.
All right. Second. We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion on that one? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Mr. Clerk, number 4.
803 probation.
So, sorry, 803. I'm checking them, and then I look at the next one, going, oh, we gotta do that.
Just a change in line item title here to operations manager. There's a couple of deactivated lines. The overall increase, 6%. So there's some FOP union contract impact, and then, their probation officers, supervisors are set by the chief judge. Is the department head. So we really don't have any say over those salaries.
Equipment repairs is going up. So they're all.
You mentioned that.
No, but and there's some account that she had that money coming in to take care of.
Spent, checking account interest, CD interest, it's been accumulating over the years, and that's what this year and probably some next year. So it's basically their reserves, their cash carry forward that have been spent, much like the sheriff accumulated those
Right.
medical funds.
Question. And so, the Fund 4230, the probation officers, is there such a difference between what's been spent year to date and the 24 budget? Seems it's jumping.
Yeah, you only spent 400 out of 638 budgeted.
It's 5
That was-
pay periods behind.
Right.
It seems okay.
Since.
They're only on track to spend 520. Out of 638. And they're asking for 6% increase, takes it to 673.
So at this point, they're at 450.
50. After September,
As of right now.
That includes today's pay period.
so then a total.
There are still 5 pay periods remaining.
So we're gonna be closer to that. It's still, you're not gonna hit 630.
1130. That's it.
So what, 580? Your proficient.
I don't want to go to this, but I know they have their annual performance space
Increase in their CBA, and those usually take place in November, and it comes out of the salary. And their salaries.
Not all.
Not all, of it, not all, of it, no. But
There's a. But I was gonna say, it doesn't cover the benefits. So bad. I know that.
So some of this money comes back. Is that right? Okay.
It's slow, comes back from the state, I have to voucher it every month,
I'd expect.
and sometimes it sits. So the state can collect some interest, but eventually, even if it may come in another fiscal year, we do get some good portion of it reimbursed, but none of the benefits.
Well, I mean, overall, it's only a 6% increase. You know. Um. Here. Yeah, any thoughts? Anyone? On this? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
So move.
We approve on this first, for a second. Sure. Second and a second. Any other discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any concerns? We take a couple minutes.
Leave the song going. Tick tock.